I'll tell you the goals and pitfalls as well as examples for every Common App essay prompt. Get yourself a beverage. Today I have sweet tea, and let's have a chat. Prompt number 1. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application will be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. What's the goal of this prompt? This prompt is trying to get to know you by enabling you to choose what is meaningful about you. They give you 4 options: background, identity, interest, or talent. And then among those, of course, you have a myriad of options. A couple examples for this prompt would be your background growing up in a country with a dangerous political environment. That would have had a large impact on you, and the college admissions officers would want to know about that. Another example would be having an interest, an obsession with Japanese light novels. If you're going to talk about an interest here, you do want to make sure that it is something you're genuinely interested in and passionate about. What about the pitfalls? One of the pitfalls here is being cliche. So in your background, you don't want to have a cliche such as talking about moving to a different country or being a first or second generation immigrant. Admissions officers have already heard a lot of stories like that. That can be integrated into your essay, but I would not recommend making it the focus of your essay. If you're going to talk about a talent, it's not good enough to just talk about a skill like debate unless you're a national champion, because that is a cliche as well. Again, that can be one aspect of your essay, but you don't want it to be the main part of your essay. Another pitfall is talking about a hobby without including your spin on it or why it's meaningful to you, or talking about an interest without showing the deeper meaning of it in your life. Going back to the prompt, if your application would be incomplete without this interest, it has to be something very meaningful to you, and that has to come across in your essay. Prompt number 2. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? This is a very popular prompt among Vanguard students, and I think among students in general, because talking about a challenge is an easy way to show personal growth. It's an easy way to show how you developed over time, and that is one thing that admissions officers are interested in hearing about. The goal here for this prompt is to get to know you through your articulation of your own perseverance and personal growth. Some example topics here might be illness, whether that's physical or mental, how you worked through that, what you've learned from it, whether you're still struggling with it. One interesting example I have for you is a student that I had last season. He talked about his struggle to make the perfect sourdough bread. He talked about how he made the sourdough starter in the middle of the night, and he actually hid it in his bookshelf. His starter kept messing up. He kept trying to make good bread with his starter. He redid the starter. He would redo the bread. He researched it. And so in his essay, he was able to talk about how his interesting struggle to make the perfect sourdough bread was connected to his intellectual vitality, his search for answers, for explanation. So a challenge can be anything. It doesn't have to be like a mature sort of challenge. It can be a weird challenge. It's even better if it's a unique and odd, strange challenge that no one would expect. Here are the pitfalls for number 2. Sports injuries, overdone. Don't do that. Overcoming a class or a test, struggling with academic subject matter, does not belong in the narrative essay. You can maybe talk about that in a supplemental essay if there's one about overcoming a challenge, but your narrative essay should be personal, should be passionate, should really get to know you on a level that is greater, significantly greater than talking about academics. Number 3, reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? The goal of the admissions officers here is to learn about your thought process. They want to know how you learn and grow, and they want to hear about your critical thinking skills. So examples of this sort of essay would be having an assumption challenged by someone close to you, how you grew from that, and how you challenge your own assumptions moving forward. Or maybe you challenged a stereotype that someone else had. What did you say to them? Why did you feel led to challenge that stereotype? Are there other ways that you do similar things in your life? Pitfalls here are going to be controversial topics. While controversial topics are definitely something you can talk about in the narrative essay, you do want to be circumspect about how you approach that you approach it politely and professionally. You want to show that you have an opinion, but you're also very open to hearing and learning and growing from other people's perspectives. Another pitfall is talking about changing a belief or idea without reflecting focusing on your thought process and how you changed from that. So you don't want to just say,
I believed that women couldn't be doctors, and then I went to the doctor, and my doctor was a woman, and then I understood that women couldn't be doctors.
but you don't want to say something like that. Obviously, the women being doctors one is stupid because there are plenty of female doctors. But the point here is that you don't want to just say that your belief was changed. You want to say how that impacted you personally. Like, what did it teach you about different perspectives in the world? What did it teach you about continuing to challenge your own beliefs? What did it teach you about critical thinking, about research? Just in general, how did you change? How is this affecting the rest of your life? Number 4, reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? This is the most recent essay prompt. It was actually started in 2021. The goal of this prompt is to show how you turned gratitude into action. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you means they want to see what you did after experiencing that gratitude. They also point out that they want it to be gratitude that affected you in a surprising way. So examples of that might be experiencing a kindness from someone you didn't like and how that impacted you. Maybe you got reprimanded at work and you were actually thankful because it put you on the right track or it enabled you to move on to learn something. Pitfalls here, not focusing on yourself. It would be easy here to talk about your gratitude and to talk about the person that you're grateful to because you probably like them now since you are grateful to them. But you don't want to go on and on about them and not talk about yourself. Another pitfall here would be having a cliche response. Like I said, the prompt says in a surprising way. Maybe you were grateful for something that you wouldn't normally be grateful for. You don't want to just say that you got a Christmas present that was, really fantastic, really expensive, and exactly what you wanted, and you were grateful for it. That's not going to make a good essay. Number 5, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. The goal here is to see how you have grown or matured, not just in skills, but possibly emotionally or philosophically. Examples here could be starting a podcast. It's an accomplishment, and maybe it sparked a new understanding of yourself or others. Maybe you learned a lot about the audience of a podcast, and that helped you understand the world at large, or it helped you understand a friend that you were understanding at that time. You could also write about a parent's illness. That would be an event that made you grow and mature. I'm sure it wasn't pleasant, but experiencing a parent's illness and having to stand up for yourself, having to take some more responsibility, would probably spark a new understanding of yourself and others. Pitfalls here would be focusing on others' experiences rather than your own. So that means don't write about personal growth from a missions trip or a charity event. That's focusing on their experience and saying, oh, I learned from seeing those people. You don't want to do that. Number 6, describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? Goal here, to demonstrate intellectual vitality. That's the main goal. You want to talk about this thing that really makes you lose all track of time. You are so engaged with this thing. It actually reminds me of me when I was little. I would read for hours and hours and hours, and my mother used to say that the only thing I could hear when I was reading was if someone was talking about food. Examples here, talking about quantum computing. Maybe you have this really passionate interest in quantum computing that isn't fully understood yet, that isn't even fully created yet. But for you, it's very engaging. You want to talk about that. Another option might be learning a language you love. Maybe you learn a language from a country that's very far away from you and that you've never visited, but you love the way that the language sounds. You love the movies that you watch in that language. You love the way the culture is expressed in that language. If that makes you lose all track of time, if you're very passionate about that, then absolutely write about it. Pitfalls here, not going deep enough. The admissions officer doesn't just want to know what you're interested in. They want to know how it started. How did you get into it? They want to know why you're so passionate about it. If you say, oh, I like to read books, then they would say, okay, so what? That doesn't really teach them anything about you, and they want to know about you. But if I said, I want to read books because it enables me to see how various people respond to in different instances. Jane Eyre responded to Mr. Rochester having a wife by leaving, by saying, I can't be in love with you because you already have a wife. Whereas Catherine in Wuthering Heights was in love with Heathcliff to the point that she haunted him after death. What's the difference there? Why did different people respond to different things? What does the author have to do about that? Number 7, share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. If for some reason numbers 1 through 6 don't appeal to you, you have number 7. I would not recommend using an essay that you've already written because the narrative essay or personal statement has a very specific goal in mind to help the admissions officer know you, and you probably haven't written an essay that will meet that goal. But the goal of number 7 is to share something that you feel like defines you but doesn't fit into the other categories. There aren't many examples of number 7 because the other prompts are so broad and you can usually fit an essay into one of them. But the existence of this prompt shows that it doesn't really matter which prompt you pick, as long as you write a great narrative that shows your uniqueness and your capacity for growth. Pitfall for number 7, using this prompt when your essay fits one of the other ones.